Modern gaming just doesn't hit the same anymore. Think about it. If you're ever talking to one of your friends and one of you guys mentions a retro game like Ocarina of Time or Mario Kart Double Dash, the conversation will shift into how good those games were. And all of the memories of playing them back in the day will start flooding you. But why is that? Why are classic games looked upon to be so much better than modern games? Some reasons might be a bit obvious, but others not so much. One of the biggest factors to play a part in this is nostalgia. You have nostalgia from the games you used to play as a child. You remember the good times of coming home from school, sitting on the couch with a snack, playing Mario 64, Jak and Daxter, or Halo 3. Life was stress-free. We didn't have to worry about paying bills, going to a job, saving money. All we had to focus on was getting through the school day so that we can come home to play our favorite games. But go ahead and try to replay one of your childhood classics. Try to beat them from start to finish. Sure, some of you can do it, but most of you will put it down after a few hours, if not, maybe even a few minutes. You'll realize the graphics were not as good as you remember, the gameplay is much slower, or the stories and characters are just going to be much simpler too. You realize very quickly that you're not playing something as engaging like The Last of Us or God of War. But again, that thought will pop back into your head. Modern gaming sucks, and retro games were much better. Why do you feel this way even though you can't go back to play those retro games and replay them anymore? Why do these games stand out so much to you? Why do you have these connections to these games specifically? Well, I'm just going to assume, like myself, most of your parents bought, and for the most part, picked out your games for you. I mean, come on, we were not old enough to have a job and pay for our own games. So, most of the times, your parents would buy your games for you. Whenever you got a new game, no matter what it was or how trash it is by today's standards, you're always happy to just rush home and go and play it. You would play these games for hours and hours. Half the time, you probably never even beat these games either. I know for myself, I would play Pokemon Emerald over and over again. I'd get to a specific part in the game, get stuck, then just restart the game from the beginning. But why did we do this? If we got stuck in one game, why didn't we just move on to the next? Well, I mean, sure, we probably did go back and play some of the other games, but our options were so limited. We would only get games on our birthdays, Christmas, getting good grades, and other special occasions. We didn't have the disposable income like we do now. We couldn't just go to the store and pick up a new game or download something new from Steam. So until we got that next game, we were stuck playing the ones we had, trying to figure out what to do next. Not having many games in your collection as a child made whatever games you did get more special, and you appreciate them more for what they were. I think the rise of the internet really helped fast forward the progression of games and how we play them. We didn't have the internet like we did back then, so typically when you got stuck in a game, you either asked your friends and family what to do, or you tried to figure it out yourself. You'd essentially be forced to spend time exploring and seeing if you could find anything that you may have missed or something hidden out of the way. It was nice to just spend time in these worlds, get lost with no clear objective or goal in mind. Look at something like the original Zelda. Everybody got stuck and lost in that game. Nobody had any clue or any idea on how to beat that game. We would just walk around and explore until we found something new or unique. Now, every game has a walkthrough or a guide telling you exactly what to do. With modern games, we were never stuck in these games because we have the internet to show us what to do. We don't spend time exploring the worlds we're immersed in, we just look up what to do next, or what did we happen to miss, and it takes that immersion and that feeling away. We also look up where to find the best items and the best gear and how to fully optimize our characters. Let's take social media and short form content for an example. These forms of media have drastically shortened our attention span. We don't have a large attention span like we used to. We want the newest and greatest game now, and we want to play it until we either get stuck or look up how to get past it, or until the next new game comes out. It's the fear of missing out. We want to be in with the new trendy game of the month. We watch trailers, gameplay videos, and even reviews on games to see if we'll even be interested in playing these games. But back then, we would find out about new games from commercials on TVs, gaming magazines, or even instruction booklets from games we already owned. Yeah, does anyone else miss those? Because I know that I do. We weren't constantly fed all these different games week after week. We actually had time to sit down and enjoy our games before we even had a chance to play a new one. More so, the point that I'm trying to get across is the fact that the internet has immensely changed the way we play and think about video games. Buying a game nowadays isn't nearly as fun as it used to be. Physical game stores are becoming obsolete. I mean, look at GameStops. I don't even enjoy walking into those stores anymore. They're a dying breed. I'd give them a few years tops before they go out of business. Most games are online downloads or even ordered off of something like Amazon. There was something special about walking into a game store and seeing the selection of physical games and walking out with something in hand that makes you feel so excited to just go home and start up a new adventure. Does anyone remember the midnight releases? So many people waited outside the stores for hours just to be one of the first people to get a copy of the newest game. Most of the time, these midnight releases would hand out merchandise like shirts, stickers, or posters. Man, I really missed that. Honestly though, the best part was being with other gamers who were also excited to get whatever game was coming out that night. A community of gamers all getting together waiting outside until the strike of midnight. But waiting never felt like waiting when you had all these people to share your excitement with. And I'm not saying that midnight releases don't exist anymore, but they're not nearly as common as they used to be or as popular as they used to be. Modern gaming companies don't take risks anymore. Now they want what they know will work and what will sell. Games in the 90s and early 2000s were so different because these developers were taking risk with every new title they created. We had 3D platformers, skateboarding games, beat 'em up, run and guns, rhythm games like Guitar Hero, point and click adventures. But nowadays it's pretty much whatever they know what will sell, like sports games, Call of Duty, open worlds, RPGs, and live service multiplayer games. Let's not forget about the remakes. God, there are so many remakes. Not only are they not taking risks like they used to, but god damn, games are expensive. Some are charging $70 for the base game, battle passes, cosmetics, DLCs, season passes, and so much more. And you want to know what the worst part of all of this is? Most of these games aren't even finished when they come out. Almost every modern game requires a day one patch, and even then they'll continue to patch and update the game for a few years later, finally adding all the content that they once promised, making it so that these games aren't even worth playing until a few years after release. The best part of retro games was the fact that there were no patches, updates, DLC, day one patches. You could just pop in the disc or the cartridge and be playing the game within the matter of minutes. We didn't have to wait for the game to install or anything else like that. When gaming companies are willing to take the risks, that's when masterpieces and classics are born. Gaming doesn't feel the same because retro games were much simpler. Think about something like Mario. The story was simple and easy for anybody to pick up. The princess got kidnapped by a bad guy and you gotta go save her. But for example, with something like Nier Automata, you need to watch a whole ass video explaining everything just to understand the story of the game. Think about it, how many times have you beaten a game and had to look up a video on YouTube explaining the end of the game because you don't know what the hell just happened? Sure, you can argue that we grew up and matured, and so did the games, but the simplistic games from the past just hit a bit differently. I mean, look at something like Wii Sports or Dance Dance Revolution. It was something that everybody could play, even your grandmas, and they loved that shit. I genuinely don't think grannies are going to sit down and play Dark Souls or God of Wars in the retirement home. I mean, sure, there's always exceptions. All in all, it's not that modern games are bad, but gaming has changed and grown into something new. And that's personally up to you to determine whether you think that it's changed for the better or for the worse. Who knows how games will be in the next 10, 20, or even 30 years? Hell, I mean, at least we could always go back and play Wii Sports again, though.